What's up, everybody? We are back with week 7 of the NFL season, and we got another Survivor video for you. A lot of good games this week with Survivor pick potential. Many teams are favored by close to 6 points, a touchdown, and in a lot of cases, even more than that. So I'll help you sort through it all, talk about which teams I think you should avoid and what teams I think you should take so we can keep surviving and advancing throughout our Survivor leagues. We're going to start off, as we always do, taking a look at potential picks for the week. I select about 7 games that I think everyone has on their mind and definitely have Survivor pick potential, and sort them by the spread, the money line, and then I convert that money line into a percentage to see how likely Vegas thinks that team is to win. And then a couple of qualitative factors that I think are very important in Survivor. And that's, are you playing on your home field and are you playing a divisional opponent? So you got a lot of games here with the Cardinals on the Rams really sticking out, both favored by more than 2 touchdowns. And then a couple of games at the bottom that are favored by like close to 6 points. So talk about who I think we should be avoiding this week in Survivor. I want to say, though, I want to preface that I think that all of these picks are going to win this week. I think that a lot of these favorites are going to take care of business and get the job done in week 7. So I think you really can't go wrong picking any of these teams. I think just some are a little bit better for strategy than others. And that first team would be the Buccaneers. These guys are at home against the Bears. There's not a doubt in my mind that the Buccaneers beat them, and probably by more than 12.5 points, as this line suggests. The reason I think you shouldn't be taking them is because there are so many good teams to pick this week. You want to save the Buccaneers for a later week for the strategy aspect of Survivor. They have the Washington football team, the New York Giants, the Jets, the Falcons, and you might even pick them against the Colts. So that's 4 to 5 games that you have for the Bucs later in the season. If you haven't picked them already, you're definitely going to want to save them for the flexibility that they offer you. There's so many games here to pick, especially with a team like the Cardinals that has a 93% chance to win. You're going to want to save these teams that have easier schedules down the road, and the Bucs have one of the easiest schedules in the league for the rest of the season. So this is a team, just because of the sheer fact that they have so many easy games and easy Survivor picks later in the season, you're going to want to save them if you already haven't picked them yet. A couple of other teams that I don't think you should be picking for a couple of different reasons. Like I just said, you got teams that are favored by 17 points and 2 touchdowns. You're probably more leaning towards taking them versus the team that is only favored by 5 to 6 points. So these guys, obviously, Ravens and the Browns have a less likelihood than a lot of these teams to win. But there's another factor there is like looking ahead their week schedule. There's not a lot of games that for the Ravens or the Browns that I like down the road. The Ravens play the Bears week 10, and that's really the only game I really like for the Ravens. And it can, for at least in a Survivor aspect, these guys are red hot and they're beating just about everyone they play. But I like to keep it safe, and especially against the Bears, they're probably be favored by 14 points in that game, probably at the minimum. So you definitely want to avoid the Ravens, just because they have a much easier matchup against the Bears later in week 10, which will probably be my pick that week. Just looking ahead, it's also a divisional opponent against the Bengals. Especially in these AFC North matchups, you never know what's going to happen. It's the classic defense shows up type game, and it's going to be decided by 3 points. Probably not going to happen this week just because how lights out Lamar Jackson's playing. But even so, as a general rule, I like to stay away from divisional games. I think because it's 6.5 points divisional game, easier schedule down the road with the Bears. Avoid the Ravens. Browns are a similar thing to avoid, except they're not playing a divisional opponent. They're at home. They're only favored by 5.5, and they didn't look great against the Cardinals. And I think the Broncos are a somewhat scary opponent. Kind of don't know what to expect out of them. They play really good defense, especially taking away the pass game. So I would just avoid the Browns because they're the lowest likelihood to win, too. You got a 69% chance to win when I'm offering you teams that have a 90% chance to win. Kind of seems like a no-brainer. But the Browns don't have an easy schedule for the rest of the year. They only have one other game on the schedule that I circled for Survivor, and that's the Lions in week 11. So that's probably my week 11 pick looking ahead. Ravens week 10, Browns week 11, and they're going to be favored by a lot of points that game. The fact that they're not even favored by 7 doesn't mean they're not going to win, but I just like when my teams have a much higher percent chance to win. So don't take the Bucs, don't take the Ravens, the Browns. Save those teams for other weeks and make your Survivor journey a little bit easier. Again, I think those 3 teams all win this week, but it's just better to have those guys in your back pocket down the road later in the season. The best pick, I mean, how can you argue with the Cardinals being favored by 17 points at home against Houston? Last time we saw a team favored by 17 points, it's only happened one time this season besides this game. It was the Bills, who were also at home against Houston, coincidentally. I got a lot of comments in the comment sections talking about how the Bills were maybe a scary pick and I should be aware of them. They won the game by 40. Sometimes when it's this easy, it is not too good to be true. It's really going to be that simple. And the Cardinals will probably win this game by 20 plus points, as just as the Bills did. The Cardinals are the hottest team in football right now, the only undefeated team. The Texans are a team that really don't have anything going for them. There's no one on that roster that's about like really spectacular talent, no real playmakers. They kind of just put together a 53-man roster, go out there, play, collect their paycheck, and get out of there after a loss. So if you have the Cardinals, still the pick, it's the easiest pick. It's a no-brainer pick. If you're not playing the strategy game at all, not looking ahead at all, this is the best pick this week. And we'll say the Cardinals do have a lot of games, a few games, handful of games that I would like them later in the year too, such as they play the Bears, the Lions. I think they play the Colts, who are a slightly below average team, but I think the Cardinals are just so much better than them that you could take in that situation as well. So definitely the best pick and no doubter. But if you're thinking about saving the Cardinals for later in the year, I can understand that too. The best value here is the Patriots -7. They're at home. It is a divisional opponent against the Jets, which makes it a little risky. And even to up the ante, it's even riskier because the Jets are coming off a bye week. The Patriots, the reason they're the best value is because I really don't see too many games on their schedule that I would pick for them later in the year besides one, and that's against the Jaguars. But that's in like week 16 or 17. So that's assuming you're making it really far in your league. So if you want to think about right now and not thinking 10 weeks out, the Patriots are a good pick. With good value comes great risk, though. Against a Jets team that doesn't look very good, but it is a divisional game. They're coming off a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks instead of the typical 1 week to prepare for the Patriots. Always a little bit more dangerous. But in my mind, there's probably three things that are guaranteed in this world. You got death, taxes, and Bill Belichick beating the Jets. So I think this is a pretty solid pick. Definitely not by a long shot the safest pick here, but I really don't see too many picks for the Patriots in Survivor League, especially in the near future, unless you're making it really far down the road to week 16, 17. You're probably not taking them again. So I think it's a good value pick there. Other good picks, I mean, if you still have the Rams, seems like they're favored by 10 plus points each game. Another good pick. They got the Lions, who just look awful and pretty incompetent as a football team as well. All these teams are at home too, which I love. You got to love having a home crowd and that home field advantage. So that's another reason I think a lot of these teams are going to win the game, just having the home field advantage on their side. These guys are favored by 92%, just about as close to a guarantee as you can, besides being the Cardinals. The Rams, though, looking ahead, they got the Jags and the Texans. So if you somehow have managed to not pick the Rams, it could be another week you pass on the Rams and save them for later in the year, as they got two really easy opponents coming out of that AFC South who have a combined 2 wins of the two teams so far through 12 games. So you got some really weak opponents coming up. And if you haven't picked the Rams, congrats to you. I couldn't do it. I think I lasted like 2 weeks without picking them. I think they're my first week pick, actually. But if you've managed to hold off of picking them, I think it's another good week to keep the Rams on the sideline and, call their name a different time later in the season. I also really love the Packers here. Somewhat of a good value, not as good as the Patriots, but I just don't think they lose to the Washington football team, who, one, has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and two, their offense really isn't that great right now either. They just went up against the Chiefs, who have the worst defense in the NFL. I think the Washington football team is 31st in the league in defense. They can only put up 13 points against the Chiefs defense, which is terrible, and they forced 3 turnovers. So they won the turnover battle, and they were playing the worst defense in the NFL, and the Washington football team can only put up 13 points. I can guarantee Aaron Rodgers and the Packers put up more than 13 points against these guys. I don't think this game's going to be too close either, as the 10-point spread implies. Looking ahead, though, the Packers get the Bears and Lions. They beat the Bears this week in Soldier Field. Can't imagine how the Packers are going to stomp on the Bears when they get them in Lambeau. They also have the Lions, too. So some easy games circled for the Packers. I think the divisional aspect really doesn't matter as much with them, with these two opponents, the Bears and Lions, because Aaron Rodgers just owns both those franchises, as he reminded Bears fans this Sunday. So a lot of good picks this weekend, though. Personally, for me, I'm going to be battling back and forth, picking either the Cardinals or the Packers, because I've already used my Patriots pick, so I can't take them. I think it's hard for me because I love the sure thing of the Cardinals. There's not a doubt in my mind they win this game. But the strategy looking ahead, I like to keep them later in the year too against like the Bears and Lions and the Colts, just because this team, they're just so hot. I can see them beating anyone, no matter who it is. Can't say the same about the Packers. They both have, the Bears and Lions upcoming later in the year, which I think are both gimme wins for them. But I think if you pick just about any of these teams in the list, they'll be fine this week. If you want to go with the safest thing, no brainer, no strategy later in the year, no saving teams, take the Cardinals. You will rest easy on Sunday if you take them. You won't have any stress. They're going to win that game handily against a really inferior Texas team. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what you think, what you're picking, and definitely keep watching the videos because I just love all the feedback, positive feedback I'm getting, and helping you guys and myself keep going further in our Survivor leagues. If you really like the video, please subscribe so you can keep coming back each week for more Survivor advice, along with some of our other gambling videos and for football and golf and basketball too. So keep coming back. Keep telling me what you think. Really appreciate the feedback, guys, and good luck in week 7 of the NFL.